France is in trouble and the world is pretending not to see it. The headlines talk about inflation, protests, and politics in Paris, but none of them touch the nerve that matters most. The truth sits far away from Europe, deep in the soil, economies, and decisions of African nations that have finally decided to cut the cord. For more than half a century, France built its comfort on its former colonies. That comfort lasted so long that many in Europe assumed it was permanent. They assumed Africa would always supply, always agree, always remain predictable. But the people changing the story today are not interested in old assumptions. Leaders like Ibrahim Traoré, Assimi Goïta, and Mamadi Doumbouya are not just making speeches. They are rewriting the rules that shaped modern geopolitics. The era of colonial taxes is fading. The CFA franc, once the silent chain of French influence, is losing its grip. Countries are stepping out of a system designed to keep them compliant. And France, the country that once controlled the economic destinies of others, is now facing an economic crisis it cannot hide. The headlines focus on France's growing national debt. The number is staggering, 3.4 trillion euros, the highest in the nation's history. To call France broke would be an understatement. Morally, many argue that fall happened long ago. Financially, the collapse is only beginning. Riots sweep the streets, governments fall apart like paper models, and still Paris stands on global stages preaching fiscal discipline. But how do you preach responsibility when you cannot balance your own books? To understand the crisis, you must understand the long shadow of the pact that shaped 14 African nations between 1958 and 1961. The deal France pushed in the name of independence, the pact for the continuation of colonization. The name alone was a confession. Countries were told, you are free. But first, you must agree to conditions that keep you dependent. One of those conditions demanded that 85% of their reserves be deposited under the French central bank, controlled by France's Minister of Finance. A continent locked into a system that guaranteed French prosperity and African stagnation. But history does not move in straight lines. It bends, it breaks, it evolves. Africa's rise did not announce itself with noise. It began quietly in places few Europeans ever visited, in the halls of mineral ministries, in mining fields where local engineers stepped forward, in boardrooms where old contracts faced new scrutiny. That slow build turned into something larger, a coordinated push for mineral sovereignty, not a negotiation tactic, a transformation. Congo, Zambia, Namibia, Guinea, Tanzania, South Africa, and others made a collective decision. No mineral leaves the continent without strict conditions. Prices would shift. Local processing would become mandatory. Export limits would be set with precision. European companies that once had privileged access woke up to find they were no longer special. They were one option among many. Europe dismissed the change at first. They called it resource nationalism, a temporary expression of pride, something that could be softened with diplomacy or pressure. But this time, Africa was not reacting. It was building new smelters, new refineries, new battery plants, partnerships with China, India, Brazil, and the Gulf. These countries did not demand political submission. They offered technology, infrastructure, and deals that allowed Africa to maintain control. This altered everything. For the first time, Africa could refine its own minerals instead of shipping raw materials for pennies. That shift hit Europe like a cold wave. Cobalt and lithium became scarce. Car factories in Germany, France, Italy, and Spain froze production. Battery manufacturers issued warnings. Electric car prices rose sharply. Some factories shut down temporarily. Inside European ministries, panic grew. The continent depended heavily on Africa for its green energy transition. 45% of Europe's cobalt, 30% of its manganese. More than 70% of the minerals used in renewable technology came directly from Africa. Without those supplies, Europe's vision of leading the global green economy was impossible. Public frustration grew louder as prices climbed. Cars became expensive, gadgets cost more, energy bills spiked, factories stalled. European leaders held emergency meetings, trying to negotiate with countries they once dismissed. But Africa had changed direction. It no longer wanted aid disguised as partnership. It wanted power drawn from its own resources. Europe did not only face shortages, it faced irrelevance. China, India, and the Gulf states were ready to buy every mineral Europe refused to pay fairly for. New trade routes formed. African stock exchanges surged. Investors shifted their focus to the continent, realizing it now controlled the most valuable asset of the 21st century. Then came the part Europe feared most: unity. A coordinated strategy across mineral-rich nations, pricing agreements, export policies set collectively. A structure similar to the oil cartels that once reshaped global markets. Western leaders called it economic aggression. Africa called it balance. The consequences traveled through Europe like shockwaves. In Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands, factories slowed or stopped completely. Electric vehicle assembly lines in France and Italy stalled. Battery manufacturers warned of a crisis. Semiconductor projects in Spain and Ireland froze. Medical and tech companies struggled to find essential components. The renewable energy transition stumbled. Households felt the strain. Governments panicked. Meanwhile, Africa kept moving. New industries grew around refineries and manufacturing hubs. Jobs increased. Export revenues shot upward. Infrastructure projects multiplied. A new wave of economic independence started to define the continent's future. Africa was not waiting for a seat at the global table. It was building its own table. Europe tried pressure, it tried threats of diplomatic isolation, it tried the language of old dominance. None of it worked. Africa had new buyers, new factories, new leverage. The old patterns had collapsed. By the time European leaders understood the full scope of the shift, it was too late. The economic center of gravity had tilted. Africa, once treated as a supplier, had become the gatekeeper. Europe, once confident in its advantage, realized it could not reverse the transformation. The story ends with a simple truth. For the first time in modern history, Africa has economic control that no foreign power can dilute. And once a continent tastes autonomy, real autonomy, it does not go back. France's crisis is only a symptom. Europe's struggles are only the beginning. The real story is Africa's awakening and the world it is shaping in silence, in strategy, and in strength.